In the first session of the day, we heard a lot about material science, which is mind-blowingly amazing to me. We took it up a level in the second session and looked at some really interesting breakthrough areas in the future of computing. I think it's my job in this round to take us up a little level further and say, okay, what are we going to do with all this fabulous computing that we have? If you came here on a plane or drove here in a car, you probably benefiting from all the pieces in that vehicle, whatever it might be, probably been designed on an Intel chip. If you have kids that enjoy animated movies, they're all done on Intel chips. If you have friends who are taking drugs, there's a good chance that those drugs were researched using computing of some kind. So computing has changed the modern world. We all know that, and the people in this room are probably more familiar with that than any. What I want to talk about is what's next. What's the impact that we're going to have next, and why does that matter? So let's talk about how computing is going to change our digital life again, how it's going to change the world that we live in. I am a futurist at Intel. Let's just put it out there. It's a bit of a bullshit title. That's OK. What does it mean? It means that I spend my time thinking about what will it feel like to live on planet Earth 10 or 15 years from now. What is that going to be like? What's the experience going to be like? Now, to do that, I have to put together sort of three important parts. There are many more pieces to this, but to sort of break it down and simplify it, there are three important pieces to what I have to think about. First one is obvious. I work for a technology company. Everybody in this room, I think, is a technologist. Technology and the technology breakthroughs, when those technologies will mature, when they go to scale, that is a very important component of imagining the future, being able to play that forward. But there's an important second piece to that. You have to also be able to understand the ecosystem that this is going to go into, the existing physical infrastructure, the existing business infrastructure, regulations, the whole environment. You have to understand the whole picture that your new technology is going into to understand when and how will it have impact. Good example here is self-driving car technology, probably 3 or 4 years away from being reality from the smart people I speak to in the automobile industry. The technology will be mature, but the world is not ready for it. There's regulation issues, liability issues we have to overcome. So, technology, business. There's a third component which you really have to think about if you want to understand what the future will feel like, what the future will look like. And it's a very fundamental component, probably the most important component, which is people. You have to understand people, what they love, what they're scared of, what their aspirations are, what their challenges are, and understand what they want from life. And if you put all of those together, if you looked at the intersection of technology roadmaps, of the existing ecosystem, and human demographics, desires, then you will understand what the future will look like. And I work for a cultural anthropologist at Intel. I work in a group. I'm not one of those people. I'm a technologist by training. But I work alongside people who are social scientists of all stripes. And really understanding people and their motivations, what they want, helps us understand how will technology actually change our lives. All right, so with that said, there's really one big megatrend. This is not going to be earth-shattering news for any of you in this room. Right? This is the megatrend that has been going on for probably a couple of decades now, which is that the physical and the digital worlds are coming ever closer together. And it is the touch points where we see the physical and the digital come together that is really where the most fertile area of innovation, disruption, and excitement is happening. If you step back a little bit and you look at that shift towards the physical and the digital worlds coming together, there are sort of three megatrends. Of course, I work for Intel. So I look at the world through the lens of computing, and that's what this talk is about. So there are three big megatrends, and I think you're going to hear some sort of echoes of what Larry talked about earlier here. There are three big megatrends in computing. If you follow each of these three megatrends, and you look at the intersection of these megatrends, with any sector or any walk of part of life that you like, you will find opportunity for disruption and opportunity to change things for the better. The first one is that computers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The second thing is that at the same time, paradoxically almost, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we've heard a bit about that from Larry. And finally, computers are starting to become much more natural. What I mean by that is that we will be able to communicate with computers in a way that is natural to us and not natural to them. For the first time, computers are going to see and understand the world in a way that they have never been able to before, and that brings with it huge breakthrough opportunities. So I'm going to walk you through these things, small, big, and natural. Start with small. This is an Intel Atom processor. It's a picture taken 7 years ago. As you can see, it's already pretty tiny. There's next to a grain of rice on the end of somebody's finger. We are headed towards a point where computing is going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. And yes, Moore's law is going to continue for longer than I think most of you in this room think. Certainly based on some of the comments I heard earlier. We have a little ways to go yet. I've worked at Intel for 25 years. During that 25 years, I have heard consistently for 25 years that Moore's law is only 10 years away and it'll be gone. So I'm still hearing it now. We'll see how it goes. Yes, it gets unbelievably, blindingly difficult once you get to kind of 3, 5 nanometers. But things will happen that will continue to move things forward, whether they are CMOS-based or something else. But computers that once filled an entire room now fit in our pockets and purses and go with us to Starbucks. And soon, meaningful amounts of computing. Computing that allows you to do something meaningful, useful, will be so small that it will be so low cost, effectively zero cost, so low power, and so physically small that you'll be able to turn anything into a computer. That is a profound thing, to be able to say, I can make any object in the world around me smart. Now, if you can make an object smart, and there's utility in doing that, and it costs essentially nothing to do it, it will happen. So what happens when everything in the world around us becomes smart? What can we do with that? Let me give you an example. The headlight on your car, what if we made that smart? And you probably think, but that doesn't make any sense. Headlights have really not changed much in about 140 years of automotives. It's a point light source with a mirror around it that forces the light to go forwards. And it lights the way so we can drive. And whoop-de-doo, big innovation. If you've got a fancy car, when you turn the steering wheel, the headlights move. I mean, it's nice, but it's not a major breakthrough. But what if we made headlights smart? Now, when I first heard about this, I thought that doesn't make really any sense at all. What do you mean smart? So let me walk you through this example. You can hear from my outrageous accent, I don't come from around these here parts. I grew up in England, and this is what it's like to drive in my country. It rains almost all the time, and it's a fairly miserable experience to be on the roads. It gets worse, it's compounded at night, because there's this stuff coming out of the sky, and you're trying to push light through it, and these tiny prisms of rain reflect the light back to you. So in heavy rain, it's actually quite difficult to see. Now, if you made your headlight smart, you could, by making a headlight smart, you're putting a computer in it. What you can do is you can combine a camera with a headlight, which is now shifted to being a projector, much like the ones you're seeing to project these, but more powerful. So use a powerful projector, a camera, and a little computer. What you can do is you can watch the raindrops falling in real time. You can use a computer to predict where those raindrops will be next. You can build a mask that you then feed to the projector that says, let's put the light around and between the raindrops. Have I just blown your minds? Right? You hear that, you think, that's never going to happen, Steve. Well, it's already happening. Years ago, Carnegie Mellon worked with Intel Labs. They have Schema up and running, and it works pretty well. And it works pretty well for rain. It actually even works with snow. I mean, obviously, rain falls mostly in straight lines. Snow does this, if you remember Peanuts cartoons for Christmas. So let me show you a video of this actually working in snow. This is before it's switched on. You can see it's really hard to see, and then click. It makes a really, this is alpha software running on alpha hardware. Can you imagine where this is going to go 10 years from now? So suddenly, a headlight becoming smart changes the way I can drive. An object I would never have thought to make smart has changed the way I drive. And we've probably all experienced this. Someone who's not paying attention, coming in the direction, blinds us, we almost have an accident, phew, we got past. If you had a smart headlight, you can track the oncoming cars, and you don't ever have to dip your headlights. Now all you do is modify your beam so that you're not shining light at the person that's coming and track that car, the same way you did with the raindrops. So smart headlights could be a major breakthrough to road safety. So what other objects in your life would benefit from being smart in ways you would never have thought of before?